He was a big hit at Long Beach High School. Does a great job with our aviation report. Let's give it up for Rich Kaplan.
Thank you, Howie. Good evening, Long Island. Good evening, Island Park, Oceanside, Long Beach, and all of the South Shore, including my hometown of Massapequa Park. The skies are cleared, and we're cleared for takeoff, so let's fly. On this edition, I want to open up with an incident that happened at LaGuardia Airport this week that's gaining a lot of press, and that was a hard landing involving an aircraft which wound up shutting down operations for over 3 hours. Now imagine you're in an airplane, you're waiting to take off, and all of a sudden your pilot comes over the mic and goes, "This is your captain speaking. We're not going to be able to take off. The plane just kicked up some of the tarmac, and we got a huge hole in the runway." Basically, that's what happened. A plane kicked up concrete in the runway, creating a huge hole for which port authorities spent about 3 hours patching up. So it was a huge embarrassment, once again, for an airport that Joe Biden himself referred to once as a third world country. But as I alluded to earlier on in a segment a couple of months back, LaGuardia is about to undergo a $4.7 billion makeover. So when that makeover is done, I highly doubt that these kind of incidents are going to happen. But to give you an illustration of what really went down, this is a Boeing 777. This airplane was coming in, or as we like to call it in aviation terminology, flaring. When he came in, he hit extremely hard, planting all the weight on the rear tires, if Rocco can get to where my finger is. The tire kicked up the asphalt behind it, almost the way a boat leaves a wake in the water. It left a wake of concrete shooting into the air, shredding the runway behind it. And the pilot was informed of this. It wasn't necessarily his or her fault. We don't know all the facts yet. But when the facts do become available, as always, I will bring you right up to date on it. Now, another story that I alluded to not so long ago was an incident involving a Germanwings Airbus A320. Now, the pilot committed suicide by locking his co-pilot out of the aircraft and plunging the aircraft into the Austrian Alps. Now, this is a very frightening scenario, but the German government finally released its report on the incident, citing huge lapses in psychological profiling and testing of pilots. Now, I mentioned a while back that the senators in this country need to pass a bill that restrict these pilots as far as in regards to psychological profile. They have to go for tests once a year to be proficient enough to fly the aircraft. I don't think we're asking a lot. I think that by testing these people, we know what we're getting, we can trust them, and when we get on an airplane, you have the right to say, I don't want to fly with this guy. If this guy makes you nervous, you get off the plane, demand to go on another flight, because honestly, you're putting your faith and your life into these hands of these people. You should know right away if they are competent enough to do the job, and if they aren't, then you should be able to write to whoever is in charge, mainly Senator Chuck Schumer, and say to him, "Listen, Chuck, I want a bill that protects me, Joe Schmo, when I fly, so I know what I'm getting when I get on the airplane." Now, lastly, you're probably wondering the real reason I brought the 777 with me. This is going to be part one of an upcoming series on Malaysian Flight 370, the aircraft that vanished. The Smithsonian Channel recently aired a documentary talking about Malaysian 370. Now, it is no secret that this is a sophisticated airplane that was designed on a computer, not by a man, but a computer. It's the first time in aviation that we trusted a computer to design an airplane. And the airplane is probably one of the most sophisticated jets in the world. It flies all over the world. Just about every airline has them in their fleet. Delta, United, American, they all have them. Now, I've been putting together very slowly a theory on what happened to this airplane. And it is one of 3 scenarios. The first scenario is a cataclysmic mechanical failure that may have been caused by the weather. It is no secret that this jet departed Kuala Lumpur bound for Beijing and was headed over an area that is notorious for very severe weather and wind shear. Now, wind shear is downwind. It is downforce that literally puts pressure on the wings, thus eliminating the lift. Now the fly, as I so commonly mention, and those who know me well, you know what's coming next. Laminar flow. Laminar flow is the wind on the wing that generates the lift for the aircraft to fly. You take away laminar flow, your jet plunges. Now, something disrupted the flow of these wings. Now, the reason why I'm so certain of this is because I saw the picture of the part that was recovered. It is the part right over here, if Rocco can pan in, where I'm pointing. There's a series here called your leading edge. This section of the wing is what was recovered. It was so beaten and so pummeled, it is indicative of what's known as a death plunge. That is when the aircraft literally falls from the sky. Now, mind you, the 777 cruises at an altitude of about 37,000 feet at a speed of about 455 to 500 miles per hour on twin engines. In this case, these I believe are General Electric GE90s. I don't really know what actually I do. Malaysian flies Rolls-Royce Trent 900s. Now, the Trent 900 spits out at its maximum thrust about 15,000 pounds of thrust. When airborne, it's reliant on the conditions of weather and wind. Something mechanical went wrong with the jet. We know the leading edge flaps were deployed. You deploy the flaperons when you're in landing position to land the aircraft or to descend. He was descending. Something went wrong. Now, whether it's mechanical, whether it's another German wing situation, or I shudder at the notion that it could have been a terrorist attack, but I don't believe it was terrorist because we all know that whenever there's a terrorist attack, usually someone claims responsibility. I believe there was a cataclysmic mechanical malfunction. And in the months that follow, as more parts are recovered, I'm going to start to put together a picture for all the viewers out there of what I believe may have happened. And I hope that I personally can help to bring some closure to the families of the 200 plus victims on this jet by doing this. Because I know how hard it is to lose somebody and not know why. It eats at you like a cancer. So if I can do something to lighten that load by personally getting involved and trying to figure this out as a hobbyist and also as an aviation enthusiast, then so be it. That's my goal. That is my mission. That's what I want to do to make the skies safer. Now, lastly, I also want to introduce a new segment, which is definitive terminology, because I use a lot of terms on the show and people wonder, well, what is he talking about? Today I want to talk about the term hangar. A hangar is a building that houses the aircraft. Usually it's an arch shape or it's a triangle. The hangars at JFK recently were demolished over by Federal Express. We don't know what they're building. The rumor is it's going to be a whole massive cargo facility. But a hangar, by definition, is something that houses an aircraft from the elements and protects it from the rain, from the winds, from thunder and lightning, and all kinds of stuff. So that is today's word of the day on Clear for Takeoff, hangar. And I want to thank the students of Long Beach for taking us in under their wing and letting us do what we do and letting me do what I do. I love you guys. I want to dedicate this segment to all the students of Long Beach High School. Go Marines! And lastly, I want to send a special shout out to a wrestler who I have to say now I'm a fan of, Tamarcus, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I hope you win more state champions because you are just as inspiring as Joe is, and I think you are incredible. Thank you so much for what you do. The skies above us are now clear, and we just received from Air Traffic Control our clearance for takeoff. See you next Sunday.
Thank you very much. Great job, Rich Kaplan.